Right, it's 2:30 p.m. It's a Wednesday afternoon, and you're watching Innovation Fika with me, Donny, here live from Stockholm, Sweden. And today, back in the studio again with live folks. I usually have live people on the show, but an actual person with me in the studio. I've been doing some digital recordings the past couple of weeks, but today I'm back in the studio with my guest. And for anybody, just very briefly, my name is Donny. I work at KTH, which is the biggest tech university in Sweden. And every Wednesday I go live with my Innovation Fika, which of course means Innovation Coffee Break, because Fika in Swedish means Innovation Coffee Break. I'm really happy to see so many people signed up for the event. We had over 130 people signed up, I think, only on LinkedIn. But since this goes live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and Twitter and lots of other channels, we actually don't know that maybe there's 1 million people out there watching us. Well, let's pretend there's 1 million people out there watching us. Anyway, and all of these shows are recorded and uploaded on YouTube. So check out my YouTube channel, the Innovation Fika YouTube, which after today will have 86 episodes uploaded on YouTube. That is actually more than, a half an hour each. That's 43 hours of, cut away me, you'll have 20 hours of good stuff.
Nice. Well done.
So that's enough about me, enough about that. Today, I have the great pleasure of welcoming Simone into the studio.
Thanks.
Welcome, Simone, to KTH.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know that the subject of today is workshops and how to run and facilitate them. But let's start with you answering the same question that all of my other guests get to answer. Simone, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, it's interesting you ask. I actually was wondering this morning, who the hell am I? What should I say? No. But yeah, my name is Simone. So like I was telling you just when I arrived, I've been in Stockholm for 5 years now, from Australia originally, with an Italian background. And I've been working across Australia and now Sweden. I'm a new mum as well. So shout out also to the grandparents and my Sambo Papa looking after the little one. So really happy about that to come here today. And so it's nice to get out of the house and do something. And normally it's workshopping that I'm doing when I'm coming around to Sweden and also back in Australia for the best part of 10 years, you could say. So workshopping, design and product management, working recently at some of the bigger companies like H&M and IKEA, the more well-known ones in Sweden, and then back in Australia at the Queensland Tertiary Education Institute. So that was helping people to get into education. So some sort of connection to KTH maybe on that level. But aside from that, right now I'm working as the product manager at an environmental startup called And Repeat. So we look to reward people and encourage them for recycling their takeaway fast food packaging. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. There's a lot of startups in the takeaway packaging. Some are creating not only recyclable, but reusable takeaway food packaging. And some are working with recycling packaging. And where are you in that sort of?
A bit of both, you could say. So more about just helping people to recycle and understand that if you do this, you can get a reward. But also it's very good for the environment and to show them the kind of circular loop, how that all works. But
super
reusability is also something that we work on too. And you'll probably hear more about this next year as well, I could say.
Tell you what, this is here's me asking Simone and promising you that let's do another show next year when we only talk about that.
Yeah, no problem. We can do that.
Cool.
Yeah,
but today we're talking about workshopping.
Yep, that's
and you call yourself a workshopper as well.
Yep.
And let's just dive straight into it, because I think everybody has either tried to run a workshop or been in a workshop. And we have this kind of vague perception or idea of what a workshop is or shouldn't be. But if I say to you then, well, what is a workshop? What was your answer to that?
Yeah, it can be a lot of things. I think, everybody knows maybe traditionally what a meeting is. So if you think it may not be necessarily the opposite of a meeting, but it's where you can achieve maybe a lot more than what you would do in a meeting. And a meeting might leave you very frustrated. You feel like you don't achieve certain outcomes. You're just like, what the hell were we here for? With a workshop, normally, hopefully have some fun with it as well by the end. You get to have a lot of open transparency. There's normally some type of activities that you might do to achieve certain outcome or goals that are usually something you agree upon at the start, which with a lot of meetings you would hope you would do with an agenda, but maybe that falls through often. So yeah, with a workshop, you maybe have these different elements. You're often doing a lot of interactive exercises. So you could have some moments where you get a chance to think to yourself, which maybe in a meeting, it's maybe more like one person just running that versus a workshop. Normally you try to encourage everyone to have a chance to contribute to the outcome. And then you do a lot of stuff together. So you might co-create things as well. Of course, it depends on, I guess, what you're really looking to do in the workshop. So kind of to sum it up, I guess, is, it's a bit of sort of like moving pieces depending on what you're looking to achieve.
Of course.
Yeah.
And as always, everybody watching, make sure to ask questions and comment online. We'll be picking up questions as we go along. So just, bring it on. Bring it on.
Exactly.
We're here. We're live because we want to interact with you. Don't forget that. Okay, but so many people, and I know that many people watching they're entrepreneurs, they might be founders, and a lot of what they do is going out and doing, customer discovery workshops or working with, trying to figure out new ideas for a concept or product development, things like that. And again, I'm just using the term workshop because I feel that it's like, I'm not saying it is as overused as the word innovation, but it's kind of one of those things that everybody thinks they know what it is, but I would say that I won't say very few, but I would say that not everybody knows how to start run a facilitator workshop to maximize the effect of it.
Yeah, it can be a bit intimidating. And what I would encourage is that, like, if you really want to hold a workshop, but you're a bit like, how do I do this? You don't have to jump into a full-on workshop. So maybe you just take a workshop element. So it could be like, okay, I have this meeting, but maybe I want to do something like with an icebreaker, for example. So take a workshop element, help people get to know each other in a bit more of a fun way. Maybe you don't do that in a normal meeting, for example, or you take something that helps you with the co-creation part of the meeting. So it might be you have a 1 hour meeting and you're like, I just want to weave in one element that can kind of make us workshop it a little bit more. And then maybe you start to build on that. So maybe you start to get a toolbox of different workshop activities. So I would say that's a way to get started, at least if you're a bit intimidated.
Yeah, but I'll latch onto that one right away, because I think that one thing that we tend to do in meetings is the classic, let's go around the table and everybody say who they are and where they're from. And everybody says more or less their name tag, and sometimes they try and add something which makes them sound like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, understand. Yeah, can happen. Yeah.
But when you say the icebreaker thing, what would be a good way of doing? I mean, just give me an example. Is there an introduction icebreaker? What would that be?
Yeah, I like to do a fun one, which is pretty safe in a way, because you also want to respect that people have different boundaries. So it could be like, tell me something that you wanted to be when you grew up. So typically you can say like, I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to be a nurse or whatnot. And it could be really interesting just to kind of strike a conversation. And you can time box it like a lot of the modules you would in a workshop. So you don't sort of have it running too long. Like maybe someone wants to dominate the conversation and tell you their life history. So it's like, okay, everybody gets 3 minutes. It's kind of short and sweet. And we time box this for a maximum of 3 times, however many people are there. And it's really nice, I think. Then you have a personal connection. You're like, wow, that person wanted to be the astronaut or the race car driver. And you kind of always maybe see them in a different light, or you have something extra to talk to them about.
Of course. Okay, you said time box. What does that mean?
Yeah, maybe that's a term that you just get used to saying these things. Yeah, I understand. So you might literally say, we only have 10 minutes for this one. And then there's another module here. Normally a workshop could be made up of different modules or different activities. And then you might say each activity or module takes X length of time. And it's good to let people know in advance as well. And when the breaks are coming up, of course, time box everything basically.
So when you're looking at, say, I have 1 hour to spend on this with these people in this room, then you start by dividing the hour up in how you propose to run the meeting itself?
Yeah, exactly. I think like if you can be sort of working on your facilitation skills, one of the most important things is time management, and also to understand not to overschedule too much, which is very like easy to do because you get excited about doing so much with people. But if you time box it, you start to see, wow, this activity will actually take a lot longer than anticipated, times the amount of time by the participants, and you realize, wow, okay, suddenly we might need 3 workshops, not just 1. So time management skills really come into that with the time boxing.
And just here from the sidelines as well, I'd say time boxing any agenda would make any meeting better as well.
Absolutely.
So just don't have, we have to go through all of this, and then we always end up with, these last 3, 2 minutes, and can we just,
Exactly.
So time boxing, ladies and gentlemen, time management. Okay, what else is like some obvious things to don't forget this, or make sure to think about this kind of thing when it comes to planning a workshop?
Yeah, I'm trying to think apart from the top 3 tips that we'll keep secret.
Oh yeah, well, we'll get that. They'll be the summary of where we end up today. So don't worry about that.
It's all right to touch on that.
Oh
then.
yeah.
Okay, good stuff. We talked a little bit before about, you have a diversity of an audience coming through. So you want to make sure everybody feels welcome and included. And so icebreakers are one part of that, to kind of get people maybe feeling a little bit more comfortable and getting to know people, but also giving people the chance. Also, some people might be a bit more shy, some people more extroverted. You want to sort of avoid people maybe dominating the whole workshop, which can happen in a typical meeting setting. So you want to kind of make sure you give everyone the chance as well. Different cultures maybe might interact differently. So you want to kind of understand who are you meeting beforehand, if you can. Let them have the chance to prepare beforehand. I know many people don't have the chance. So even if you give them some homework, you also have to expect that maybe the homework doesn't get done and that you can still run ahead with it. But, kudos to those people who do the homework. So it's always nice. But yeah, so everyone has a chance to think, because some people want to think beforehand. So at least you give those people a chance. And the ones who want to just think out loud on the spot, they can also do it when you have those discussion moments as part of the workshop.
I'm going through, okay, what have I done wrong the last couple of weeks with my meetings here? I'm just thinking about it, I'm the worst example of them all, even though but this is good. This is why we're doing these coffee break sessions, so we can all learn, me together with you, of how to do things better. So we're planning a workshop, we're planning a meeting, we're sending out some things before, think about this, we're planning the time box thing, and then people come there, we do an icebreaker. And how do you actually, because I've seen, people would have the Post-it note things and you have that whole thing. And what, is there anything, methods that you sort of suggest or think people should use? Or
yeah, I mean, it's always fun with Post-it notes. I mean, just like the pure color alone is always fun to get people excited, like something's happening here. With COVID, I guess like most of us been doing most of the workshops remotely anyway, but before that, a mix of remote and also in person. But yeah, I mean, you give people a texter each, or colored pen or marker, however you want to call it, and yeah, give people some Post-it notes and say, okay, here's your 3 minutes to think to yourself, or on the spot, write something down and just put it up here. Give everyone the chance to kind of come up to the board as well. Is really nice to get everyone standing up. I think if you're in person, sitting down kind of kills the energy a bit. So you can have moments, where you kind of change it up. And of course, if there's some people who have trouble standing, no problem, you can sit down, it's all right. But yeah.
Okay, here's a question. Here, an actual honest question from me.
Sure.
Because when you do, you do the first 3 minutes on your own, 3 minutes in the group, and then the groups have to go through. And then when you get to, like, if you're like 5 groups, like the group number 3, 4, 5, they go, yeah, but we had the same thing that they had.
Yeah, it can happen. Yeah.
Is there any way of avoiding that? The first 2 groups say like everything, most of it, and then nothing really else. I mean, because you want everybody to have their sort of say as well.
Definitely. I think you got to try to think of the questions that you ask people. So if it's icebreakers or something like that, you're hoping to get a more like personalized kind of answer, or a more unique answer. So if you think carefully, like if I ask this question, what value will I get out of this? And yeah, will it pull just more sort of generic results or answers? Or is it something that people can draw from themselves, from their own experience? So you need to think of the way you ask the question that kind of can draw out something from their particular experience or skills. So good. It's tricky though to do.
The finer points of workshopping here, people, the finer points. A really good question. A question already from Rohit. Do you have any tips as a facilitator to get the loud ones to give space to the others?
Yeah, I would say it's a good question. Yeah, the time boxing is a really good one like that. So, and it's fun as well. So you'd be like, it's your time now is up, or, letting them know, because you might start to understand someone who is maybe a bit more extroverted in the session, so that you have to keep sort of on them.
I would know nothing about what you're talking about
in a fun way. And I think most people can take it in a good way, and they normally realize they probably speak a little bit more. Like I can do it too sometimes. So you realize, okay, we're going to give everyone like 3 minutes, and you let them know that you're going to be firm about it, but in a friendly, polite way. And then you just make sure as the facilitator that you're like, okay, sorry, your time is coming up, 30 seconds, give a little, friendly warning, and let people know, okay, it's time to move on to the other one. And don't let other people interrupt the other person, maybe who is like a bit more shy, for example. But usually I think people are good when you say, okay, everyone has 3 minutes. In Miro, for example, when you do the online boards with the workshops there, you can literally set the timer so people can even see it ticking down, and that kind of encourages them, and they don't want to feel bad for going over time. So that works out well too.
And what do you, if okay, and this extreme situation, but if you have a loudmouth or a person who don't, and they might even not, sometimes if it's a guy, maybe they do perceive themselves as like that, but sometimes people just keep, is there any way of politely saying, could you please?
Yeah, you almost have to say like, okay, you just have to remind them of the schedule that you have, and like, say, okay, we've got quite a few activities going on now. Like, it's really great to hear what you're saying. If we have more time at the end, we can come back to you. And usually they kind of laugh and realize, oh yeah, okay, sorry, I'll let the other person talk. If it's like, hey, we would like to hear from such and such, and if we have time at the end of this round, we come back to you, or we park something for later.
But I think the time boxing idea, and also actually using that to direct the word, or what you want to call it, is also, I think that's a great idea as well, to use your structure to actually get and enable everybody to speak as well.
That's it, yeah. And you keep it very transparent. So like, you let them know before the workshop how it's going to be, and you can even bring it down to the detail to say like 3 minutes per person, but usually it's more like at a higher level, like, okay, this module or section will take X minutes, for example.
Another thing I know that we're talking about now, but I know that it's also something that comes to mind, is the whole sort of, because you said we tend to want to cram too much into a meeting or a workshop.
Yeah.
And we think, and for some reason, we think that, the dead time or the silence is like bad.
Yeah, true that.
And we try and sort of, it has to be something happening all the time, it has to be new activities. But that's not the case.
No, and some people feel really uncomfortable with the silence, and sometimes you might play some music, or they might play some music, and you kind of have to balance it out to see, like, are people comfortable with the music, or can they mute it? Like, if someone, needs that going for themselves, or you remind them, okay, you can sort of take that time alone and then listen to the music. But otherwise, yeah, I think if people are just really like, able to kind of respect that everyone is different, and you remind them these are the workshops the agenda items that we have on the workshop, we have to get through all of this, then usually I think it's a good reminder to people like, hey, we have a lot to get through. We already maybe are pushing for time as well. I'm guilty of it as well, that sometimes I might try to, put too many activities through, because you're like, I know we only have 2 chances maybe to meet with a client. But other times I think, we just sort of try our best. Sometimes if, we have to speak during a lunch break, because one person in particular really is like excited to talk about their opinion, and you have a chance to talk about that. Otherwise it's like, okay, guys, we realize this has to go over 2 days perhaps, or we break it up into 3 workshops, and you just kind of remind them, yes, we would love to do it in, say 4 hours or 2 hours, whatever the type of workshop is, but say, look, based on everything we have to go through and the outcome you're after, this is how we have to kind of schedule it out.
So could we in general, and I know that I'm generalizing a lot now, but could we in general say that kind of less is more when it comes to building a workshop here?
It can be, yeah. I think you just pick like the crucial elements, like to help you achieve the goal. So beforehand, you would have talked to the client to see like, what is it you want to achieve, and then kind of verify that with all the participants in the workshop ahead of time, get everybody agreed on the expectations. And then you can say, okay, let's see, like, is this relevant? And you as a facilitator also determine these are the best activities to kind of reach that goal in as few activities as possible. You're right. You don't want to really do things just for the sake of, sure, there's a lot of stuff that can be fun, and you might want to try it out, but if it's not really relevant, there's no point. Just do what's relevant. So
just do what's relevant.
Yeah.
Thank you. I get very, very relevant comment. No, and I think that another thing that I've seen a lot when it comes to, because you said this before as well, and in my personal opinion, asking the right questions is usually, that's the art form here.
Yeah.
To get people thinking about the answers and then leading them that way. Because just by saying, here's a blank piece of paper, there's lots of Post-its, come up with something, is usually even intimidating, because I don't know where to start.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And how do you go about figuring out the right questions?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I still struggle as well. I mean, I do my best, like, with over the years, like collecting like different ways that I've asked that have worked well for people, or based on feedback, I'm like, okay, that really worked well, or that got a good outcome. So I try to like remember and gather the good questions that I've asked. And then sometimes there's ones that really flop as well. So I think you have to acknowledge, okay, this just didn't work here. Like, you try different things all the time. You read things on LinkedIn and whatnot, learn from others. And also with the different groups, sometimes something works really well, and other times sometimes it doesn't. So don't be disheartened. It just might be that particular group or whatnot. But I guess, yeah, just from experience, but there's a lot out there, like a lot of good resources, I would say, and more open-ended questions, I mean, is the typical thing. So something, and like I said, that helps people draw from their own personal experience, or if they can connect it to themselves and their own story in some way, I think it motivates them more as well. And give them a good example if you can. So even if you think it's a very straightforward question, you could say, for example, blah, 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 like this is how I might answer it. Or, you know, if you take someone that you know, like as the client, you've worked with them, or you've just learned a bit about someone, you could already kind of take that little bit of information and say, oh, as you mentioned this, blah, 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 like maybe your example could be this. And you could just make something up, but you kind of semi-connect it, you know.
Well, this is a really good tip. And this is also a really good speaker tip, is weave in anything that has to do with them in a, you know, today sense, because it will also make what you're saying feel much more today.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll feel it's about us.
That's it. Yeah.
In a different way. So, okay, let's switch to the other side of things and say, but are there any things that you would definitely never do in a workshop, or please ask us to stop doing, or avoid this, or what?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about, like, you know, having all these different exercises, and if, you know, you get to the 5th group and then you're like, oh, wow, we've already gone through this. You don't want to make things too boring. You want to make sure you can keep the energy up. So try not to do like the same thing that, you know, maybe you've always been doing, or that you think everybody on the market is doing. So unless it really works and gives you the value, sometimes, you know, it can lead to teams going, oh, we've done this before, you know. So you want to try to like find a way to keep it energizing. Yeah, if people are talking too much, like we talked about, time boxing, but you can come in like, you know, gently, or a bit more than that if you need to. Other things not to do, let's see, or things to make it not so great. I guess, yeah, we talked about not having too much packed in, not too many participants if possible. It depends really on the type of workshop. But then you want to sort of segregate people into different groups to give them a chance to kind of collaborate together and then to come back in. But sometimes, depending on the outcome you're looking for, you could have maybe too many stakeholders, for example. So maybe you just need to pick and choose like the right stakeholders who can really contribute value at that point in time. And then maybe you kind of go back out in between the workshops to get more information before you come back in.
What's the biggest group that you've ever workshopped with?
Geez, let's see, maybe up to 50 people or something like this. But I would say, in my opinion, it felt a bit too much. So I think like less than that. So like maybe like 10 is like a good group at a max. I think then you can kind of have a good command of the group as well. Or else, like I said, you need to sort of be able to split off different size groups as well, and then get them to come back in together. And it's just a lot more people to get through. So you have less of a chance for people's like individual voices to feel heard. And that's the main reason, I would say, because for me, I like to make sure people can contribute, but also that I can kind of like contribute to them and their ideas, and engage with what they're saying, and be like, oh, okay, so you're saying this and that. It takes a lot longer to go through 50 people. If you think of like user interviews, even you could still talk to them outside the workshops, but if it's 10 people, you can get to know them on a more personal basis. Whereas, you know, 50 people or even 20 people, it's harder to draw out the information and get that connection from them, like, and vice versa.
Anybody watching as well, make sure to send in your questions. We have, thank you, Rohit, for a great tip. Thank you. Yes, Rohit just setting a great tip. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rohit. Let's see, do you have any resources like secret websites or toolbox pages that you can tell us for finding activities and inspirations to keep things fresh in every workshop? Any secret websites?
Yeah, I can't think of something secret, but maybe it's secret for some people who don't know it. I mean, I learned a lot of my stuff through the AJ and Smart site. So first of all, with a lot of design sprints and things like this, you can get a lot of the workshop materials from them. They even have a workshopper website. It might even be like workshopper.com or something like this. You can check it out. A lot of awesome stuff there.
That's a business idea, there, workshopper.com.
I think they have this, yeah. So maybe in a book as well. So fantastic resources there. Miro, of course, like where you can run all of your online workshops. They have a lot of stuff. I get also a lot of inspiration from the butter community as well. It's called Butter, like, you know, spreading butter.
Oh, Butter,
so
okay.
It's an alternative to Zoom. So they run a lot of stuff, and it's really nice that they also have like a big community as well, and a lot of different events. So shout out to them. Hyper Island, that's more a Swedish one.
Yes,
probably know about.
They have a lot of resources online. Exactly, I know Hyper Island has a lot of on their website workshop inspirations and everything there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Miro, which is an online whiteboarding tool with also lots of different templates. And the other one, the Miro competitor is called
Butter. Or a butter is more like a competitor to Zoom,
there's
you could
one,
say.
but there's one another, another one. I just can't remember the name of it, but it says
Mural maybe.
Yeah, Mural, of course, Mural. And then they also have tons of templates
Exactly.
for working. So that's some tools and templates and tips there.
Exactly.
Looking at the time here, the world's fastest half an hour, and we're already getting up to the 5-minute last point here. So we actually need to get to our dear guests' top 3 tips, because we never end without the top 3 tips from our guests. And we're talking about workshopping today. These 30-minute coffee breaks are just a teaser, an inspiration to you to meet a new fantastic person and get inspired of thinking new different ways, and for you also to ask questions live with the person here in the studio. And today we are ending off this broadcast with Simone giving us her top 3 tips for creating amazing workshops.
Great, let's do it.
Amazing workshops. So tip number 1, tweak what is already available.
Exactly, yeah. So you have a lot of workshop things on Miro, like we mentioned, and Mural. So for me, I get a lot of inspiration from what people have already presented there. So you have like full workshops ready to go. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just kind of go with something that's relevant for you. Just do a search and you can see if it's product road mapping or it's something about team culture workshops or even designing your own career. There's so much on there. So take what you need. You can copy paste even different elements. And I often do that. So it's like instead of creating something from scratch, I would just see what's on Miro or what's on Mural. If it sound very similar, those two. It's a bit of a tongue twister. But either of those, just take something already there. Don't feel like you need to start from scratch, because you might feel overwhelmed that way. And there's a lot of amazing people out there, workshoppers and artists, designers alike, product managers, you name it. They've already created a lot of this stuff for you. So you can just kind of take what you need or take the whole workshop, just make yourself familiar with it. There's often lots of great instructions there. And then you can just run with it. And I think that's the easiest way to jump into it. It's already there for you.
That's a wonderful tip, because I know, we don't invent a new business plan format when we're writing a business plan. We don't invent a new pitch deck format when we're doing a pitch deck or business model canvas. We use the template because it's there for a reason, right? And the same thing here.
Yep.
Thank you. Fantastic tip. Use what's already there. And there's tons of resources out there. Tip number 2, create a safe space.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I was talking about before, like, you might have people from different cultures that come through, and you want to make sure you can accommodate people, or some who are more introverted or extroverted. So with the icebreakers, that's one way to do it. You want to just make sure people have the chance to have their voice heard. And that's why you can have these different modules where it's like, they call it together alone. So it's like you are there all together, but you have a chance just, to take your own time. It's like, okay, everybody have 5-10 minutes, depending on the exercise, to put your thoughts down, and you can go around one by one to get everybody to voice their feedback. It's just very important to let people know that, like, no matter their perspective, that everyone will get a chance to kind of explain or describe what it is that they think is, a good idea or what isn't a good idea. So if you create that culture from the beginning, I think, of the workshop, set the expectations there that everyone will get a chance as well, and that you will be time boxing. All of these methods are to help people feel safe. And if they sort of feel like maybe you can notice maybe someone is not speaking as much, or you can kind of approach them even during a break as well and say, like, hey, would really love to hear more from you. But also don't push people too much at the same time. Maybe for some reason someone is having a hard day and they just can't give so much. So you have to sort of read the room as well.
But this was an actual additional tip that's not on the list here, but I have to second this one, because you don't call the quiet ones out in front of the others, because there might be a reason they're quiet. So you can approach them in the break, just ask them if everything, is everything okay? Do you feel like you're getting your voice, do you want like that? Fantastic. Really, really good. Thank you. And that goes to the whole safe space thing as well.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
Fantastic. Tip number 3, provide time for reflection.
Exactly, yeah. So as well as just like the breaks where it's like, okay, together alone time, but it's very important for people to know, hey, when am I getting a tea break, a fika break, a lunch break, a toilet break, all these things. It's like, that's when you think the most, right? When you have like a shower or something, or you go to the toilet, that's when something clicks, or you're like, no, I really don't like this, or no, this is something I want to talk more about. I have a great idea suddenly that's come to fruition. So you want to give people a chance to know when the breaks are coming up, when they have a chance for reflection, and whether that's within the realms of the workshop, or if it's like a chance to do homework before or after, just give them that space. And that's also part of the safe space. It kind of leads on from that, really.
Again, I'm just nodding here, and I'm seconding everything you say, because so much of what you're saying is kind of, the fundamentals of being creative and working with creativity. Yet what you're saying now is we can actually, as workshop facilitators, we can actually structure that, and I'm not saying control is the wrong word, but we can structure it and we can enable it.
Exactly.
Because even though you can, if you give people a longer break, they'll go sort of, yeah, well, what are we going to talk about then? But they'll be processing what they just experienced during that time. And as you said, they beds, bars, bottoms, and buses, the 4 B's of creativity. That's when people come up with things. So, you have to give them time. So I love those top 3 tips. And I was going to say I love you, but I can't say that yet because we've just met. But I love you for you coming here today and being on the show. And it actually is 3 o'clock on the nose. It's a half an hour coffee break. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And you can reach Simone on LinkedIn. You can reach me on LinkedIn as well. You'll find this show on YouTube recorded. And all of my written content, by the way, is on Medium, if you want to check that out. But for now, Simone, thank you so much for coming today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for asking questions.
Thanks.
And I will see you next week, 2:30 p.m. for the next Innovation Fika. But right now, we're saying thank you to Simone. And have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.